engages the largest numbers of people, especially in the commercial space. This is the largest number of people, about 37 million. I think the last survey done by SMEDAN showed that there were 37 million MSMEs and engaging over 60 million Nigerians. And this is the same everywhere. It's the same everywhere in the world. Practically every country in the world. The EU, I think, is about 90% of enterprises in the EU are MSMEs in one kind or the other. Practically everywhere in the world, we all know that this is the heart of commerce. This is the heart of the economy. But a lot of the talk and a lot of the discussions, appear to merely mistake the problems, and the problems are very many. But somehow we've been short on the solutions, short on how to really open up this space such that entrepreneurs, such as those who have seen just this morning, are able to access finance, are able to run their businesses in a manner that benefits not just themselves, but that benefits the nation and their communities. And I think that's what I'd like us to focus on, really the practical issues that require some talking about and some dealing with. Those very, very practical matters that we have to deal with in order to open up this space properly. And some of those practical issues, and when we look, for example, the Honourable Minister talked about access to finance and, of course, access to information as being one of the major hindrances to MSME growth in Nigeria. And that is entirely true. But it's not because there is no finance. It's not because there is no finance. For example, and it's not because there are no programs or opportunities. And for example, of course, that there is a 220 billion MSME fund by the central bank. There's also UWIN, there's that project, the one that's under finance. There is GEM, the one run by the Ministry of Trade and Industry. There's FAFIN, the agriculture one. There are many programs, many of them funded. But the question, of course, is who gets these funds? Who actually gets these funds? I just went through this exhibition a few minutes ago where we saw several entrepreneurs, many that are, I saw a few that are being funded by the Bank of Industry, and several others who are in search of funds, several others who are in search of opportunities. But it appears that the opportunities, are there, but those who need to access the opportunities are also there, but there is just no connection, or it is extremely difficult for them to find the connection. I think one of the critical reasons why this is the case is because we are somehow not required to actually account for each and every person that is receiving this funding. I think it's very important going forward that all of us in this sector, especially those of us on the government side, it's important that we must sit together and work out a way by which we are able to actually measure all of these deliverables in this sector. For example, we know that we're supposed to fund a certain number of people. Who are these people? Can we verify them? Can we verify who these specific individuals are? How much are they getting? In what ways are their performances measurable, and how do we measure their performances? I think that all of this is absolutely important. To cut a long story short, we need a very effective monitoring and evaluation, very effective, so that we can then address where exactly the gaps and the shortfalls are. But today, it is evident that the programs are there. It's evident that resources are there. It's also evident that the entrepreneurs are there. Those who want to get engaged are there. But we need to make that the very important link between the two. The other thing that I'd also want to talk about is the fact that several of these programs, several government programs, just seem to be all over the place. I think there's a need for us to coordinate the efforts. There's a need for us to work together. SMEDAN is supposed to be coordinating a lot of the work, but everybody has a bright idea. Every agency has a bright idea about MSMEs. So in some cases, you find that there are overlaps that are not necessary. And we can really work at ensuring that we streamline all of these different, programs and the different interventions. We can work at streamlining them. Because if we don't streamline them, a lot of waste results. And of course, a lot of inactivity too, on account of having just far too many people playing in the same, from the same sources, but playing in different areas and sometimes playing in the same space without any kind of coordination. My respectful view is that without doing something very serious about the ease of doing business, we're going to be far away from achieving many of our objectives. We are at the moment on some of the surveys that I'm sure many of us are familiar with, very low on the ease of doing business index. In other words, we are one of the more difficult places in the world to do business. Now, that is not changing that whole paradigm, if you like, is not really rocket science. It is about a determination on our part to ensure that we're able to clean up our environment and make things work. And if you look at countries that have succeeded in moving up the scale on the ease of doing business, they have simply decided, and when I say they, I talk mainly about the regulatory authorities, about government, simply decided that we're going to make this work. What do we need to do in terms of granting licenses, granting permits? How do we intend to sort that out? We must decide that it must not take X number of days, or there's a maximum number of days to get a permit or to get a license. We must accept that if the regulatory authorities make it so difficult for a person to get a license or to get a permit, then there is something wrong with that system, and we have to fix that system. If we don't do that, then where we are at the moment is that, for example, I was speaking to somebody in the power sector who has been finding it extremely difficult to get necessary approvals for almost 2 years. This is an investor who's bringing in their own capital. If someone wants to bring in capital, and you are not saying this is an illegal business, you want the capital. You say you want the capital, you need the capital anyway. And somehow, you can't make it happen, you can't make the deal happen. Then there's something wrong with that system, and it's up to us to fix it. And as I said, it's not spirits that fix these things, it's men and women like you and I who fix these things. So I think it's important. I think that I would like a lot of time and energy and resources spent talking about how to fix things in this particular MSME summit, just so that it doesn't end up being one of these many occasions where we gather and talk and say very nice things and go back to our everyday lives and to the routines that have made life and business practically impossible all these many months and many years. I'd just like to say also that when you look at the situation today in terms of the economy, obviously there are many problems, many challenges, and a lot of those challenges, and you look at the Nigerian spirit, you'll find that the Nigerian is still able to say, you know, things are looking good. Well, things are going to get better. We are very hopeful people. We're very resilient people, very entrepreneurial, very, very strong. And we can basically weather any storm. I think that all of that is important for us to channel that to growing business in this country. And it's the commitment of the government under President Buhari is to ensure that we are able to give every Nigerian a fair chance, a fair opportunity to do business, to be able to go through government procedures without having to pay bribes, or without having to do things that are illegal. And we also very strongly believe that everything that is meant to facilitate business ought to be made to work. That's the reason why we've worked fairly hard at trying to restructure, the public service in a way that we're able to, find men and women who will be able to deliver on the promises of the administration. The ministers are in place now. A lot of work went into picking those who the president would consider the right people for those positions. And frankly, I think that we're in a good place. I think that with the setup that we have, with the ministers who are in place, the permanent secretaries who are in place, and all of the individuals, all of the various individuals working with various agencies, we are in the right place to make real progress in this country. All that we need is some commitment, some ability to keep our focus. I was saying to a gentleman just yesterday that our problem is not in the great ideas. We have fantastic ideas, fantastic policies, but sometimes just keeping our eyes on the ball long enough to be able to achieve it is a problem. But I want to assure you that with this government, we're going to keep our eyes on the ball. We're going to keep focus. I want to ask everyone, all of you who are going to be working with us and participating with us in this, to join us in keeping focus, in just being committed to seeing that we get this country to run right. And the first place is business. If we can get business running right, we can give the right opportunities to our young people and to all of those who are in the entrepreneurial space, trying to get some work done. I think that we will make really ample progress in this country. I'm looking forward to seeing a great new Nigeria, and especially the MSME space growing and prospering. I have been talking to SMEDAN about especially micro businesses, the market women and the artisans, and expanding this whole space so that the market women and artisans get a fair chance to be able to grow their own businesses as well. And these are millions of Nigerians who need to be assisted, who need to be helped with financial planning, who need to be helped with small loans so that they can also do their businesses, grow their businesses, employ labor, and make a significant contribution to this country. I know that it's going to work, and I want to wish you all very well at this summit. I know that you will be coming across all manner of ideas and policies, but I just want you to bear in mind that let this be a different type of summit. Let this be a summit where we're just talking about how to solve the problems. We all know what these problems are. Let's just talk about how to solve the problems. Thank you very much. And with those few words, may I formally declare this summit open. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the Vice President deserves a very loud round of applause. And Your Excellency, sir, I'd like to